This programme is proudly sponsored by Warwick Business School for the Changemakers.
Welcome back to the weakest link, Fallout. Earlier in the game, 6 of our 10 players were sadly eliminated, leaving us with just Arya, Benjamin, Clint, and Dave. Just before the break, we saw a strong round from each of our players, bringing the jackpot to £5,000. Our player score is as follows. Arya with 18 out of 20 correct answers, Benjamin with 14 out of 20 correct answers, Clint with 12 out of 20, and Dave with 8 out of 20. It's now time for another vote out, but before that, let's take a look at what's in store for our remaining players. Over the course of the game, our players have been building a healthy jackpot through the cash builder rounds. At the end of each cash builder, a sequential voting round has been used to eliminate the weakest link. We now return to our penultimate vote out. Players again will vote sequentially in order of performance from best to worst, with each player aware of previous votes, and the player with the highest number of votes will be eliminated. If you find a tie in voting, the player with the lowest level of performance so far will leave the game. After this voting round, there will be another full cash builder and elimination, leaving us only with our 2 final players. These will then answer another round of questions before facing off the final showdown to be crowned the winner of the game and take home the full jackpot. It's now time for the vote out. But before the voting, let's take a look into analysing the game with Matt.
Thanks, Petra. As the voting in this game happens sequentially, we can use a tool called backward induction or rollback to find the equilibrium path of players' voting strategies. These are the decisions they'll make based on the previous and following votes, where no player will have any desire to change their strategy. Let's take a look. Now, backward induction begins from the very end of the game. We focus on the final financial payoffs for each chain of decisions and work backwards to select players' optimal actions in any given situation. Now, given the number of decisions to be made in this game, there are actually a staggering 648 potential paths from this point to our final, so we'll break this down into 2 smaller subsections. From this round, there are 4 potential outcomes. Either Arya, Benjamin, Clint or Dave will leave. So let's construct a tree diagram for each of these outcomes and look into one as an example. The players' final expected payoffs will be calculated as the total jackpot given the eliminations multiplied by their probability of winning the showdown, which we calculate using their performance so far. If Arya leaves in this round, Dave will be faced with a voting decision between Benjamin and Clint, but depending on how they've voted before him, his optimal strategy will change. Here he has a choice between an estimated payoff of £3,080 and £2,836, leaving one obvious choice. We can do this for each final payoff for each scenario. Where Dave has the decision between 2 equal payoffs where both players have voted him out of the game, he'll be indifferent. So, shown here are Dave's optimal decisions given the previous votes. So now we take a step back to look at Clint's decisions. Clint now can choose between Benjamin and Dave, knowing how Dave will respond to this. Here his predicted payoff, finalised by Dave's following vote, is higher in both cases by voting to eliminate Benjamin. So looking back to Benjamin's decision, he now knows that regardless of his decision, the 2 following players will vote him out, making him financially indifferent. Through this strategy, for each potential elimination in the former round, we actually find that weaker players will always collaborate to eliminate the strongest player, as the effect of higher probability on financial payoff is greater than that of increasing the jackpot by maintaining the strongest player, although this could be different if the strongest player was even stronger, or if the questions earn larger amounts of money. We can now assess which first round elimination gives each player their optimal payoff, which is shown here. So, bearing this in mind, each player will vote in order to bring about the elimination they desire most. Where Dave has the option to eliminate Benjamin, he will do so. If not, he'll vote for Arya, and he'll only vote to eliminate Clint where he cannot affect the result. So here, for example, Dave will vote for Benjamin as the final payoff resulting from this elimination is better than that given by the other moves. Again, we can look at this for each possible decision he may have to make. Then, using this knowledge, Clint can make decisions to select the optimal strategy to increase his expected payoff as shown. Benjamin will do the same, and then we come to Arya. As this analysis shows, Arya is financially indifferent in his voting decision, and this makes sense as we've shown that even if he's not eliminated in this round, he will be eliminated in the next. Let's get back to Petra and see if our players will act rationally and follow their equilibrium strategies.
Back to the game. Arya, it's now time to vote out the weakest link.
I'm gonna go with Dave.
Benjamin, place your vote.
I am voting for Clint.
Wait a minute. Didn't we just work out that he'll be voting for Dave? Why would he do that? Let's look.
I can't believe Clint voted me out last round. It's payback time.
Ah, that's obviously irrational. We can't let him do that. How about we rewind and let him vote again?
I am voting for Dave.
So now that Dave has 2 votes, he's guaranteed to be eliminated from the game, as our tiebreaker rule means that any joint score sees the weakest performer leave. How will Clint vote knowing this information?
Clint, it's now time for your vote.
I'm gonna vote for Dave too.
And finally, Dave, you may place your vote.
Wow.
I'm gonna vote for Benjamin.
Sorry, Dave, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Here's what it is.
Arya, Benjamin, and Clint are left. It's now time for another cash builder round. In Faulty Towers, what was the name of Manuel's pet hamster, which really was a rat? Not bad, players. Let's take a look at our scoreboard. Arya, with 9 out of 10 correct answers. 7 out of 10 for Benjamin, and 6 out of 10 for Clint. The jackpot now sits at £7,200. It's time for another vote out. Arya, who are you voting out?
I'm gonna vote for Benjamin.
Benjamin, it's your turn.
This round, I'll be voting for Arya.
And Clint, your vote.
So Clint now finds himself in an enviable position with the opportunity to force the player he desires out of the game. It's a choice between keeping Arya in the game to build as large a jackpot as possible, or eliminating him to give himself the best chance of winning. Our equilibrium path showed he should vote for Arya, but how will he vote in this tense situation?
Arya.
Join us after the break for the final showdown between Clint and Benjamin. Who will be the strongest link?
Before returning to our final showdown, let's take a quick look back at our game. As we saw, Arya was destined to leave the game and so was indifferent in his first vote, but you may also have noticed that this seemingly unimportant decision shaped the rest of the game. In reality though, it is likely that Arya wouldn't be impartial at all. See, this game only considers financial payoffs, but there are so many other sources of utility coming from the result. For example, depending on Arya's character, he may find that he would draw pleasure or utility from seeing the winner gain as little as possible, which would mean voting out Benjamin. On the other hand, if he prefers a socially beneficial outcome, he would vote for Dave. Or completely aside from this, he may draw utility from voting for players he disfavours, or from taking revenge on others. At the same time, players could simply act irrationally as shown by Benjamin in the penultimate round of voting. Defining rationality solely in financial terms, there is a huge range of reasons for irrationality, like vengeful voting, liking or disliking a fellow player, or even forgetting important information like which players have performed best or worst so far. These irrational decisions, like Arya's first vote, can alter the course of the game.
If we'd followed through with Benjamin's vote for Clint, his fellow players' rational decisions would have meant he was eliminated from the game, rather than going on to the final showdown. Nightmare.
Finally, the analysis of this game and players' voting is all based upon estimated financial rewards coming from other players' performance so far. As you may have picked up throughout the course of these final rounds, being the best player in the game doesn't actually pay off. In fact, Arya was guaranteed to leave the game with nothing simply because he was the best player. So there would definitely be an incentive to act in such a way that you wouldn't be the best performer, meaning purposely getting some questions wrong. This is referred to as signalling, acting in a certain way to demonstrate to others that you're of a certain type. But then comes the question of which player is the most authentic liar, a vicious circle that would encourage a bizarre race to the bottom to be the most average performer.
So, there are visibly an enormous number of potential strategies and forces at play in this game. In fact, we've barely scratched the surface, but hopefully we have provided a relatively concrete example of backward induction and its use in this real-life situation. But that's enough for our analysis. Let's get back to the game.
Welcome back to our final showdown. Benjamin and Clint have played a superb game thus far and are each in with a chance of taking home today's £8,500 jackpot. The players will now battle it out against 5 questions, with the first correct answer taking the point. 2 of these will be general questions, 1 will be based on today's game, and 2 will come from today's surprise category, which is Game Theory. Benjamin, Clint, prepare to face off. Question number 1. Who hosted the first Football World Cup? Clint?
Uruguay.
Number 2. What date did the First World War begin? Benjamin?
20th of July 1914.
What is a term referring to players acting in a certain way in order to demonstrate a characteristic? Benjamin?
Signal.
What do you call the situation where no player in the game have any desire to change their strategies? Clint?
National equilibrium.
Let's take home the jackpot. Given that voting happens sequentially in this game, what strategy could be used to calculate the player's equilibrium paths in voting? Benjamin?
Rollback.
Congratulations, Benjamin. You are the strongest link and you get to take home £8,500. Thank you for watching and join us next time to find out who will be the weakest link.